time, the whole thing was shadowing us, right behind us, right on the side of us. You could kind of see the thing moving through the woods.
All I can remember is flipping the light on, and I see this creature, and I knew in my heart, I knew in my mind, and the whole night, this isn't a man.
And then this thing walks across the road, takes a turn towards us, and then leaps over a guardrail.
Went to look forward, and there was a big black thing.
Welcome to Squatch-D TV, exploring the Bigfoot mystery each week with your hosts, veteran researcher, author, and TV personality, the Squatch Detective, Steve Culls, and from the Bigfoot Research Project of Kentucky, Chris Bennett. Sit back and buckle up as we bring you guests from around North America discussing the Bigfoot phenomena, but not without a few laughs, too. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatch-D TV for today's date, December 18th, 2022. I'm your host, your guide, the Squatch Detective Steve Culls, along with my co-host, Mr. Chris Bennett. Hello, Chris.
Steve, man, it's good to see you. And I was just looking at the calendar, man. You know, next Sunday is going to be Christmas Day.
No show.
Are we going to do a show, or are we going to be off?
No show. We're going to be
off. Oh, you're going to let me have a day off. Thanks, man.
Well, yeah, I think we'll do it. I don't know if we're even going to do a show New Year's Day. I think we will.
Yeah.
If it's well, we'll talk about that. But
yeah, Steve's a nice guy. He won't make you work on Christmas Eve like Ebenezer Scrooge.
That's right. That's right, Cratchit. Do not leave not a minute early.
Yeah.
I suppose you want tomorrow off.
The whole day.
The whole day. Just another excuse to rob a man's pocket. Anyway. So welcome one and all, and I don't know if anybody's noticed, but we've been playing a little bit with YouTube Shorts, having a little fun with that. So we appreciate everybody swinging in by there and checking out some of our parody videos we've been doing. It's actually, as we talked about it before, it's helping the algorithm a little bit. So every little bit helps. And
I love the Yeti Squatch, the Yeti vandalism, whatever, backpacker thing. Or
the Raging Bigfoot.
Raging Bigfoot. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, he was a white Bigfoot, so I think he was a Yeti.
Yep. So that will definitely continue. We have one lined up for tomorrow morning as well for the Shorts lineup.
Oh.
And we shall see what that one turns out. And we have a few lined up. We haven't finished them yet, but we have a few videos we've targeted for the future. But tonight, of course, we have Suzanne Ferencak from the back 80 down there. Hello, Suzanne.
Hi, guys. Great to be back with you guys. This time in video, though.
That's right. It's video. Now everybody gets to see you.
Great to have you.
And
Thanks.
if time permits, we may actually try the call-in line tonight. That's already queued up and ready to go. So that ought to be a hoot nanny.
Call in and put Suzanne on the
hot seat.
Hot seat, yeah.
And
put her on the spot. No pressure.
I'm okay with it.
And it's been what, about 4 years since we've, and boy, time flying, like 4 years.
It's been a while. I didn't think it'd been that long.
No,
I know. I thought it was 5 years. It seems like a long time, but I guess it was 4 years because it was
2018. It was before we went to the video format here, which took a while to grow, but it's been a lot of fun growing it, and a lot of great people. So let's do our usual chat rundown today. And first in today was Paul Daglian, Uncle Bones 2, Don Fuller, Helton, aka Faster Man, Jay Fritz, and we did a short Eyes in the Hoppin'. Yep, Eyes in the Woods. I don't know if we've seen them here. Well, welcome. If it's your first time here, welcome. Mr. Lee 3PO is in the house.
Lee 3PO.
And the tall ones, Brent, how are you? Arthur Watch is in the house as well.
Arthur.
Jen, Sandra Piper, Grasshopper, Em and Chris, Brandy, Bigfoot, New York, Todd. And that's not Todd standing. Welcome.
Hey, Todd. How you doing?
Going through the list. Charlie Wonton's in the house. We didn't get a chance to put Charlie's video up tonight, but for the first of the year, Charlie Wonton's going to have a special address to you and me, Chris. So
that's cool.
It'll be fun. The Central Florida Bigfoot, Matt, how are you tonight? High Five Chaser, that's a new one today, I think, too. Welcome.
Good to see you.
Daniel Weeks in the house.
Daniel.
Chessboard, what's going on, Chessboard? Jeff, Pine Island Research, how are you? Jeff Trefoletti also in the house. And that looks like up. And there's Joe from Western New York Bigfoot Investigation.
Hey,
Joe. So, and
if it's your first time here tonight, remember, smash that thumbs up button. Come on, dude. Give us a like
button. If you're not subscribed, you're missing all the fun. And like I say, our shorts are mainly parodies. Our upload videos are mainly analysis or equipment reviews, and of course our weekly podcast is where we tend to get serious most of the night. A little bit.
It's always good. You can go back and you can watch a video that's a serious analysis.
Did get a message from Mick today. Mick, unfortunately, is being chauffeured around, so he is in the car. He's going to catch it up on upload.
Okay, well.
But we want to throw a Merry Christmas out to Mick as well.
Merry Christmas, Mick.
And Merry Christmas to all our folks that listen off of Anchor FM, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, all that group over there, Audible, Amazon Music. Merry Christmas, guys. Happy holidays. Whatever you celebrate, enjoy the season, enjoy your family, and welcome to probably the last show of the year. So now that we think about that, this will be the last show for 2022 because the earliest we're going to come back is January 1. Could be January 8, but I think we're going to come back first.
Oh, yeah. Next week is Christmas Day, and then the week after is the first day. It's the first day of the new year.
Christmas time for toys.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Had to do that. But anyway, so let's get to the business of the night. So Suzanne is an incredibly credible witness. I've met her a couple of times, and we had some fun last year at the Sasquatch Triangle Conference out in Ohio. That was kind of fun. And
that's great.
recently, you, I called you a copycat.
Me?
Yeah. You know why?
Why?
You bought a Bronco.
Oh, you have a Bronco?
Yeah, you stood next to it.
Oh, you're right. I did. That's right. I followed you into the parking lot. That's right. That's right. I love it. I've had it for a week, and
Yes.
it's less than a week, and it's great. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Pretty durable. So, just if there's any recalls on it, take care of them, because I had a couple of recalls that needed to be taken care of on it, and I definitely, one of them definitely. Now, what year was it? You get a 2022?
It's a 2022, and there was a recall just before it got shipped from Detroit, so they just took care of it there. Something about the wheels, and
Yep.
so it's all set now.
Yep. Good deal. So,
I feel left out, like I should get me a Bronco or something.
you got that big H2.
I'm looking forward to, for the first time ever, camping inside the car. I'm going on an expedition in Tennessee a couple days after Christmas, and this is gonna be the first time I'm not setting up a tent and taking it down in the rain and all that kind of stuff. So we're gonna see how that goes.
Nice.
Well, it's got to be more comfortable than sleeping on the ground. It's got to be.
Well, I've got a good cot.
Okay.
Shelley Covington, Montana, had recommended a good Coleman, and that's worked out great. But I'm just real tired of putting away wet, muddy tents.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I did to circumvent that? I actually decided to not put my tent in a bag anymore. And I just put sometimes I'll put the fly in there, but the only thing that goes in the bag are the tent stakes and any of the little extras. The tent and the fly go into a tote. That way, if they're wet,
Someone told me to do that. Yep.
It's a lot easier picking up. You don't have to fight with the bag, and you're trying to get that.
Well, and they never fit in the original bags anyway. I don't know.
Once you get
once
them
it
out,
jumps out for the first time, there's no way you're getting
That's
it
it.
back in.
I mean, who the hell
If you pull them out the first time, they never go back in.
You hear that, Coleman? Who the hell engineered that?
Yeah. I mean, you need like an engineering degree to get this thing folded properly and wrapped up to put it inside the storage container.
Well, that's true. Bernie Ferencak has an engineering degree, and he's the only one that can get it in the bag.
And of course, make sure you say hello to Bernie for me and Chris.
I will.
Yeah.
I will. Thank you.
But anyhow, so you a number of years ago now. Wow. I think it was it premiered. I think it was 4 years ago when it premiered. You did a documentary based upon your encounter called The Back 80. And
Yeah, we filmed it in 2016, and it debuted at the Ohio Bigfoot Conference in 2017. And then they did one more version of it after that. They fixed a few things and changed a few things. But yeah, it's 17 is pretty much it.
And it looks like Mick snuck in.
Hey, Mick.
Just remind Suzanne to keep the hell away from any suspicious meatloaf. My ex-mom is a psychopath. That's the ongoing meatloaf gag we have here.
Yeah.
Okay.
He talks about his ex-mom's meatloaf as being probably the number one killer since malaria. Anyway.
Toxic meatloaf. And I've never had a bad meatloaf. I love meatloaf.
Oh, I've had a bad meatloaf before.
Oh, really? Oh.
Bernie makes great meatloaf.
I love meatloaf.
I make a
Can't
pretty
go
slamming
wrong.
meatloaf. So anyway, why don't we talk about a little bit about the Back 80 and about your sighting you had. So I'm going to give you the floor, Suzanne. You're getting used to talking in public. So there you go. And I'll help you along if you need any questions. And Chris definitely will ask you questions.
Oh, well, thanks, guys. I don't know. I guess maybe it's a little easier now that I've talked about this a few times, but I still get a little nervous. Stuff like this, doing it with you guys. But I know you guys really well. So I was just like, yeah, for sure. I got to talk to you guys. But the whole thing started back in 2000, towards the end of 2015, actually. And Alan McGargle and Jesse Morgan were looking for a new film project, and somebody had suggested that they do some filming or documentary or something, maybe get some witnesses together about the Mohican flap of 2013 and 14, and which actually kind of started in 2012. And Alan, I knew Alan and Jesse. I didn't know them super well because I was still really new into the whole Bigfoot community and really learning a lot and meeting a lot of people. But they said that, could they talk to me about my experience? And I have to say, I guess I'm a little bit more calm down about it all now because it's been 9.5 years ago, but I was still pretty worked up about it. And so we always joke that, when Alan sent me the email, I sent him back a 10-page email about everything that happened and, what I thought about it and what I was still asking questions about. And so we set things up. And as it went along, it turned out that the whole documentary kind of pivoted to be about my experience itself. So, as nervous as I was to say yes to somebody filming, everything about my personal experience and how it made me feel, I think in the long run, I was happy to help somebody else out that could possibly have gone through something similar where not only do you discover that these things are real, but that they are living in my backyard down the road and everybody else around me is seeing them. And that was pretty mind blowing at the time. And I always say that I'm super grateful for people that were around me, Mark Mazel and other investigators that really helped me to understand what actually happened, what could happen. And I just did a crash course on learning as much as I possibly could in a very short period of time. So by the time they started filming in 2016, I had about 3 years under my belt. And during that time, I had gone to my first Bigfoot conference. It was OBC in 2014. And that was pretty mind blowing. I was just like, wow, there's all these other people that like Bigfoots. So that was really great. And again, trying to weed out the good information from the bad, and just surrounding myself with people that I trusted that could give me good information. And then just basically just sitting out there on our property for hours and hours and hours, and just trying to learn firsthand, what was going on. And, from the sighting that started in May 14th, 2013, all the way through things even through early 2015, there was just a lot of activity, possible activity, and some for sure activity going on our property. So it really had me my head in 5,000 different directions trying to figure it all out. And then everything calmed down for several years, and which was great because I enjoyed a chance to just breathe and really think about it. But then I would sit there and be like, okay, where'd it go?
Yeah.
And, the whole time having a recorder going. And then fast forward to 2020, I started hearing possible activity around here again. And then last July, I recorded some howls. So I don't know if we're back in a cycle again where they're back, or maybe they didn't leave. They just were quiet. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, that's in a nutshell. That's kind of how it started and where it's at now.
Very cool. And, one thing I do appreciate is that, you have this sighting and you didn't get Bigfoot on the brain like some people do. You actually saw something and logically went after the problem rather than, being afraid of the problem or seeing Bigfoot behind every shadow in every picture you take. So I think that's awesome. And it's a credit to you. So, and again, the bravery of you coming forward and telling your story. I mean, even though, at first it was a documentary and you really don't see the folks in front of you, you got to know that the day that documentary was released, I'm sure you had a fair amount of butterflies in your stomach going around.
Oh yeah, I remember sitting in the Loudonville Theater. That's where they first showed it, right before OBC, actually, just for a private group. And I was just like, oh my God. First I'm like, what's with the bugs? They opened the whole thing with these, it was actually the brood of what you call it, crickets or whatever. What are those things called again? They're not crickets.
Locusts.
The locusts, the 17-year locusts that
Yeah.
come out.
Yeah.
So, but I understood eventually why they did that.
Or the cicadas.
The cicadas, whatever. Did they come along? Like Brood X or something like that. But anyway, well, I don't know. I just said that after that, that first day, when it was 8 p.m. at night, but it wasn't dark. It didn't get dark until sometime in June.
Right.
So it's still pretty light out. So I was where I was parked, and where it went over the road in front of me. There was still light. I could see it. And so I just kept going back every night about that exact same time.
Yeah.
And the best part about that was that I saw a deer jump the same exact spot at the same exact time of 8 p.m. straight up, top of the hour. And I was so thankful for that, because then, I was just like, yes, what I saw was definitely not a deer. So that was really great. And there was some other, it was turkey cross there, and a rabbit, and other stuff. So that was just trying to figure it out. And so it really wasn't. I mean, I had no idea that Bigfoots were in Ohio. I mean, I'd seen the PGF when I was a kid, and that's fine. Maybe it's out in the Pacific Northwest. And I think I'd only seen Finding Bigfoot twice for about 10 minutes each time. And that wasn't really, I didn't stick around and watch it very much. And I certainly didn't think it was anywhere in Ohio. My sister-in-law, that's I always tell the story, is she's the first one that made me think of it in 2012 when we were camping somewhere, and she called everything Squatchy, and I had no idea what's Squatchy. What does that mean? So she was the first person I called when I saw it, and I was just laughing hysterically. I don't know why. I was just giggling. And she's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I just I think I just saw a Bigfoot, and so everybody was laughing at me about it. But that's all I could. I mean, I just couldn't figure out what else it was, but it was just completely ridiculous to think that there were Bigfoots in Ohio until a couple days later. And, I Googled it, Ohio Bigfoots, and then bam, all this stuff came up, including the BFRO.net. And I clicked down into Holmes County, Ohio, and then 11 months prior, there was another sighting a mile from where he had seen it. And there were, I got my map. So it's like, okay, I don't know if I can see this. No, probably not. Okay, I live here. And then this is where the sighting was. The three independent cars crossed the road. And they all saw it. And so it was just amazing that actually happened. And we live in the middle of nowhere. And so that really blew my mind.
They don't make this framing very easy. I was trying to get your screen to go big, and it's for whatever reason it's not putting.
Well, I like to point out something that Suzanne did that I thought's really great and really scientific, was to go back and return to the sighting area about the same time. Now, I think that's really good. Trying to have a repeat occurrence of that, because you never know. I mean, okay, I do the same thing on anniversaries. I've had a sighting somewhere. I'll go to that exact same area, the exact same time, everything, hoping and praying to have another sighting,
Now, there are a couple of good questions in chat by Bigfoot New York Todd, but before I get to those, I just want, Suzanne, just tell us one more time what you actually had seen that night.
Sure. I was coming back from the Buckeye Deli in Nashville, this little tiny town in Nashville, and I was on a back road, which is a very, small, remote back road, the kind where you have to have two cars. One has to pull over for the other one to get through, and it was a big canopy of trees. They've since logged it, so it looks different now. I was just, Bernie had asked me to come home from working in Cleveland half a week. And he said, you'll find a job around here. And I'm like, made me a little nervous. But so this was just 2 weeks into it. And it was just a warm day and it was beautiful. And I said, I'm just going to sit outside, make a big bonfire, enjoy this weather. And so I stopped on that road Township Road 211 and sat there for several minutes. And there were some horses that had come into an area where they're not normally, and I was very close to the road. And so I just sat there taking pictures of these horses. And then I put my camera down and I went to look forward. And I think I put my hand on the, on the gear shift. I wasn't moving yet though. And then I saw this big black thing jump over the road. It was like this, and it was coming from left to right. And there's this kind of a hill on the left, and then there's a fence, and then it went over the road. I've said that it was in the road, but people interpret that it landed in the road. It never landed in the road. It was just in the road, in my vision in the road, and then went down the other side into this like ravine. And so I didn't see it start its motion. I didn't see its end its motion, but we had measured it was 240 feet ahead of me. And so, I mean, I could see it clearly, but I didn't see, all I saw was arms, and I saw the legs coming around, and I could see it was kind of muscular, but it was like shaggy, and it was black. And I just, I don't know. I couldn't figure, it wasn't a deer. I mean, that's the first thing I thought of because, deer jump everywhere around here. I've, had several smashed cars. But it just didn't seem, that's why it was so ridiculous. Is probably why I started laughing, because I'm like, okay, I guess I just saw a Bigfoot,
Right. And
so,
then you found out that people around your home have been having sightings as well.
right. 2 days later, I found that the BFRO report, and then I sent a message, an email, and then the next morning, Mark Maisel called me. And I didn't know him at the time. He's just an investigator. And he said, his exact words, I'll never forget. He said, I'm not surprised to hear you contact us because there have been several sightings in your area in the past 6 months. And I'm just like, you're kidding me. And I'm rushing around trying to go to a job interview, but I'm like, I'm not putting the phone down, and I'm just like, all right, you tell me what is going on. It's like, are they aggressive? I mean, what's,
Sure.
where do I start with this thing? And so he said, no, but you might want to, they're curious. You might want to keep your window shades pulled. And, to this day, that the creepy hill, what I call the creepy hill on the one side of my house, I still have the window shades pulled there, but that was just, it was just kind of mind blowing. And it wasn't until 2 weeks later, people have asked me, when did you actually think it was real? And I think, for 2 weeks I was still, and maybe that's why, Chris, I kept going down the road,
Yeah.
just to try to figure out, what else could it be? I mean, could it
Right.
be a deer that was jumping, in some sort of shadow situation? It was a lot higher than any of the deer jump. But it wasn't until, my brother-in-law and I were sitting out around our campfire. It was Memorial Day weekend, Sunday of Memorial Day weekend. So it was like 2 weeks after I'd seen it, that we had an experience where my brother-in-law did a huge shriek without telling me he was going to do this. And then we got a huge scream right back at us, really close by and really loud. And so I was just, I mean, he, my brother-in-law, I can't even do it, but he's like, and we had been goofing off earlier in the day, during the daytime doing this, look at YouTube, all this stuff. I mean, where do you start with this kind of stuff? We were joking around, so we were howling, but then it was like, oh my God, what just happened there? And then, my brother-in-law did another screech right after it, after I was looking at him, and I'm like, asking him, and that the thing that came by after that, it was huge. It was a huge screech, then went into a deep howl, and then it trailed off. And it was louder than the first one. I mean, I'm not talking, I've been on expeditions and people get really excited sometimes about like, oh, I think that's a howl. I heard a howl way far off. I'm talking like, no, this was like right there, loud, right close to us. And,
Well, you have a couple of audios that you have given us, and one of them is a howling one, and it's definitely very distinct. And I can't wait to play that one a little bit later. But
Yeah, it didn't sound like the same one, but yeah,
no.
I was glad to catch that one on tape.
So anyway, let's get to New York, Bigfoot New York. Todd's questions. First, what do you think attracted the creatures to your property during that time versus now?
I'm glad you asked that question because, Chris, you had asked me that question back in 2018 if we had put food piles out back. And I said no, because you were trying to figure out ask me the same question. And I was just killing myself because I thought about this afterward, after we were done with the broadcast. There was the hunter or the farmer down the road had been granted a nuisance permit for the deer in our area. And so he killed 70 deer, he and his family. And then at all times of the season, summer, and he would just leave them lay, if that's the correct English on that. But so there had been a lot of, he basically took out a huge part of the population in this general area. Right. So I was wondering if maybe that's what brought him in, was all the dead deer and all the killing of the deer. So obviously I don't know.
That's interesting. Yeah.
But then our hunters that we have that come every year had been coming since 1999. They went for like 4 years not even seeing a deer. So I'm wondering now, and I did some research for a presentation I did this past year. I talked to the ODNR, and I said, how many deer do you have in Ohio? And he said that they don't go by the state, they go by counties. And he said, in Holmes County is in the top 10 where I live. Coshocton County is number 1, which is right the first, it's 10, 15 minutes south of me here. And he said that Ohio is approaching a record number of deer since they've been taking records. And so we just have a lot of them. And part of it could be due to the fact that, there's not as many people hunting because they really rely on the hunters, but we just have a lot of deer right now. So maybe it's just coming back around. We don't, bear are just starting to get into this area. Bobcats are just starting to, really make their presence known. We don't really have any cougars. So maybe
the correlation between the deer population and Bigfoot is an interesting one. I know in Kentucky, the areas with a lot of deer have more sightings, Bigfoot sightings, than the areas that don't have much deer. And I'm wondering if Ohio may be the same way. And, nobody knows. We don't really know it for sure if they use deer as a food source. If I was living out in the woods, I certainly would, but that's me. But
a couple of thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, just a quick geography lesson. Coshocton County, for those who don't know, in Ohio, is where Salt Fork State Park is. So, of course, that was Don Keating's stomping grounds for many, many years, and Tales of the Ohio Grassman came out of Coshocton County in Salt Fork. So just to kind of put that geographically, you're close by.
Salt Fork, that's Guernsey County is Salt Fork. Well,
is it Guernsey?
Yeah, Guernsey County.
That's right.
Well, Guernsey County is Salt Fork, but then just north of Guernsey County, like you go Holmes County, Coshocton County, Guernsey County.
Yep.
So they're all, right. It's about 70 miles between.
And in Guernsey County, where if my memory serves me, that Salt Fork's kind of in the northern part of that county.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and then Don Keating, that's where he cut his teeth, was Coshocton County.
Yeah, because I know we did the thing in Coshocton County, but it was like a quick drive over to Salt Fork, Coshocton and Guernsey, and they're all very close together there.
Mm-hmm.
So my other question I lost in my head, but
I think Suzanne's got it. I think it may have been the creature's presence might be explained by a high number of deer carcasses available in the area if they scavenge them for food. That would make sense. It would.
Yes, it would.
One of the questions that Mark Maisel always taught me to ask is what changed. What's if there's Bigfoot sightings, what's changed? And that was the one thing around here that's changed, because we had. lived there 13 years before, and I had never heard knocks. Nobody had ever talked about Bigfoots. I mean, I was a member, officer of the Legion, officer at the Eagles. They'd all tell UFO stories, but nobody had ever said anything about a Bigfoot. So,
Now,
I don't know. I don't know
now,
where
have
they
you
were.
talked to any of your neighbors or anything like that about this?
It took me a long time to do that because I actually didn't want to screw up my research place because I didn't want them, oh, let's screw with Suzanne and do some
Or,
howl stuff.
or you
So,
didn't want them thinking, I think she's a little,
well, then there's that too. There's that too. But since then, yes, they all know about it now.
Well, I think once your neighbors find out that you're doing some Bigfoot research, some of the quiet ones will come over and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to talk. I'm going to ask you about something. I saw this footprint over at so and so's farm." They'll start coming out of the woodwork.
Well, I did get it was just this past summer. It took 20 years, and somebody came forward, a neighbor came forward and told me about their experience. So and then the other good thing too is that one of the good things that the Back 80 coming out did was to kind of get my name. Our town, Loudonville, is only 2,900 people, but everybody knows that I'm the Bigfoot lady now. So what's helpful
I suppose
about
that's
that,
better than being the cat lady.
right?
Bigfoot lady.
Exactly. In between that and the event that we did this past year, the Bigfoot Base Camp at Pleasant Hill Lake Park, I've gotten some really good local information, which is good. And anybody that knows who lives in the country, it takes a while for people to come forward. There's long-standing reputations to protect, and I think it wasn't until we can get other people talking about it where they feel comfortable to come forward. I finally started getting local reports, which is great, but it did take a long time.
I think a lot of people, Suzanne, they just get to the point to where when you first seen one of these things, and of course you're seeing something that's not supposed to exist. So I think a lot of people just have a problem with their mind. They're saying, no, it had to be something else. It can't be that because that doesn't exist. And so they'll just put it in the back of their head and never think about it again, or try not to.
Unless you're like me, it becomes obsessed with it. It's like, yeah, it's got to be something else, but what is it?
Yeah, you can tell yourself. You can lie to yourself and say, "Well, no, it must have been a cow, must have been a deer, must have been a bear." But it was on two legs. Well, sometimes bears can stand up and walk. Yeah, but it had shoulders.
As far as the deer are concerned, there's been a lot of reports, including out of Ohio. Ohio is where that whole deer liver thing started, I believe, where they noticed the deer livers were missing out of the deer. And if you go back to the old story that happened back in the early 90s, the siege at Honobbe in Oklahoma, where the Humphrey farm was having incursions on their farm, and raiding their deer lockers. And, they were shooting they could see the red eyes in the forest and they were shooting at them, but they weren't leaving. They were sticking around and they couldn't understand why. And then it dawned on them that, what a traditional gunshot meant was, hey, they just dropped the deer. It's free dinner. And a lot of times they would drop a deer and they would go out and the deer would be gone. And they don't know where the heck. It didn't look like it was dragged off. It didn't run off. They saw it go down and they get down out of their stands and they start going over to the area and making their way, and it's gone. So very interesting stuff. So yeah, I do believe that deer is a food source as well, which could be the reason why they follow. And I believe that there is a symbiont kind of relationship between coyotes and Sasquatch, because coyotes will go after the deer as well in packs. And, how many times have we had vocalizations near coyotes?
Right.
So, where we hear something and then all of a sudden a bunch of coyotes. And that happened to me in Land Between the Lakes.
That LBL one, yeah.
Yeah, I heard, we hear this incredible howl, and then all of a sudden in another direction, howls over here, and then all of a sudden over there we start hearing all these coyotes yipping. So
Yeah, that's what happened in July. It
Yep.
was the howls and then the coyotes and then back to the howls again. Here.
So I'm gonna have you set the audios up with a little description. So the first one we're gonna play the footfall one, I believe. And my question is, can you set that one up for us? Let us know what we're listening to, how that happened, when it happened, all that fun stuff.
Sure. That was recorded in September of 2014, and everybody had been since I had been saying that I've been hearing a lot of knocks and tree pushes, and of course the two howls that I heard with my brother-in-law. They said you've got to get a recorder. You've got to get a recorder, and so I finally did. And so this was the second night that I had the recorder out. I just put it up by the it was like this pile of wood back by our campfire area. And I listened to the first time, I brought it in, I listened to every single minute of it. It was so interesting because I always kind of prided, myself on knowing all the sounds that, in the area because it was so quiet. But when you hear it on a recorder, it's a little different. But the second night I did the same thing and, went out and got it in the morning and listened to the whole thing back again. And then I heard these what sounded like heavy footfalls approaching the recorder. And so then I brought it up to, my family up in Cleveland, and I put all the, headphones on them. I'm like, yeah, okay, listen to this. What do you think about that? And I don't know, you could listen to it, see what you think of it. And then I'll tell you what happened a month after that when I heard the same footfalls approaching me from the behind on the porch.
Yeah, let's take a listen to this, guys. And yes, they are definitely heavy footfalls. In my own opinion, I've heard plenty of deer in the forest and other stuff that's tromping around. This is a little bit different. So take a listen. Very interesting.
I like it.
I threw that one at Monongahela last year, and I said, can you tell me anything about this? And he just said, I can confirm that it's bipedal. Of course, there's no other way to know. You can't say it's a Bigfoot, but
now I almost hear like something went in that, or like a sniff. I don't know if you've caught that one.
I think it approached the recorder, and I think it did take kind of a sniff at it, like, what is that?
Well, let's listen to it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like just a quick.
It kind of like it stopped a couple times when the recording was going there, but if you listen to it straight through like that, yeah, it was just kind of like there's a pause, like after it arrives, like it stops, and then it seems like it could be a sniff or something, and then it walks away kind of faster than it approached,
or maybe even just an exhale, a heavy exhale.
Yeah, like, oh, it's not a Zagnut bar. Damn.
I noticed the dog is in the background going kind of nuts.
Yeah, there are dogs up on the hill. It was, I could tell there's nights when it was a little bit more active. The dogs would definitely be going.
Some of those footfalls were very heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Really good.
Kaiju Ninja picked that up too. Sniffs on the 25-second mark. Yep.
So I don't know. That was it was just another interesting thing.
And there's our next question.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard any speech at all.
Yep,
It's
and that was
again in 9.5 years. I recording for 20,000 hours out here live. That's I've only gotten 2 sound clips. I've got that one and the howls that I got. So,
and you know what that's telling me?
what?
That whatever you're putting forth, you believe is authentic, and it's been vetted. So many people would, how many of those Facebookers we see, they're putting every time they go out or they put the recorder out, they get something, and we know that's.
No, I mean I'm out here twice. I pull late night hours here more than I should, and yeah, the reason why I said 20,000 hours, it was started the pandemic. I was adding it up, how many hours that I thought I spent outside, and actually, so last year it was 20,560. So, and I didn't even count this year yet, but I have a clubhouse now, so I don't spend as much time out in the winter as I used to. But yeah, I mean, it's frustrating because I'm just like, wow, I've got nothing. I mean, every now and then I would hear some knocks. I mean, I've got a lot of good knocks. I've got a lot of great owls, a lot of good coyotes, Fisher, a lot of good stuff, but nothing.
I really like that one. I like the footfalls. You could tell it's something heavy. It's bipedal. It's definitely, a turkey can fool you. I mean, I've been fooled by a turkey one time. I was sitting out in the woods for hours and I heard walking around, but it was just the leaves rustle, bipedal foot movement in the leaves. And it was a turkey. I thought as sure as the world, when I turn around and look behind this tree, there's going to be a Bigfoot standing there. But, it did not. Yeah, it didn't have the thump,
Right. And like a deer is like,
right.
I mean, there's plenty of deer around here. So.
But I like
poor,
that clip.
Poor Chris thought he was seeing a Bigfoot.
Well, that's the thing. I almost a month later is when I heard the same heavy footfalls approaching me on the porch, and this was. You'll see that in the back 80. This was the part that really messed me up completely. Is I was about 11 o'clock at night, and I'm just sitting there, on the porch with the computer, and I heard those same heavy footfalls coming up behind me, like the hill, the creepy hill, what I call a creepy hill, was like back this way. Right. And there was a straight line along the house. And then they had like this lattice thing that was right here. And I heard those same heavy footfalls approaching me one at a time,
right,
just like that. And then it was breathing heavily. It was going, ugh, ugh. I mean, it was terrible. It was really, really terrible. And it was right there over my right shoulder. Like if that's, where I was seated, that's where it was, like its mouth was.
Yeah.
And so I just picked up the computer and I moved into the house and I didn't come out for 2 days. And for 2 weeks, I told Bernie that we had to sell the house and the dream is over. It's dead.
I'm ready to move. Yep.
Out. Wife is not happy. This sucks. I mean, it used to be kind of fun. It was exciting. It was a rush, all the stuff that had been going on. But then I thought, there's no way I can live here with that.
Yeah. When we lived at the old house at Seymour, honey, I had activity right behind the house. And I lit that backyard up. You could have played a football game back there at night. I made sure to keep the lights on.
So let me ask a couple of questions on the whole thing. So you're on the computer. Do you recall what you were doing? Were you typing something? Were you reading something? Were you listening to something?
I don't know what I was looking at. I was looking up something, probably Bigfoot related.
but you were being very quiet, I take it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I still didn't have well, no, I guess I did have a job at that point. I did get another job. That was a whole year later. So I don't know. I was just screwing around. I mean, I like to sit out, and at that point I just, stayed on the porch, had my amenities plugged in, and.
So did the noise end, or you just got up and left in the middle of it?
No, when it was like right there over my shoulder,
Yeah.
breathing, I was like, I had to get the hell out of here.
Sure.
I didn't know what to do. And somebody had said, he's like, they're like, well, why didn't you turn around and look at it? And I'm just like, no. I mean, I knew exactly what it was. I had no doubt in my mind what was standing right there. There's no way that a deer would be. We measured it. It was over 7 feet in the air where it was breathing from. There's no way. There's no way that that was a deer. I don't know what the hell that was. I mean, it was a Bigfoot. That's what it was. It's just, you know, there was nobody creeping around. We didn't have people creeping around our house or anything like that. So that was just, I don't know. And I could still to this day, I don't understand why it did that.
Yeah. Well,
Why? That's a
I have
question
a
I've never-
I have a good reason that what goes on a lot of times. Like I myself, I think it was 2010, had recorded some footfalls followed by a in my recorder. It was left in our base camp, but we had left the base camp to walk down the road. So what I think happens is, and part of that is perhaps why they throw rocks sometimes. Like if you're sitting in a campsite and you're being quiet and a rock lands, it's seeing if there's a reaction. It's looking to see if you're there. So it was probably curiosity getting the best of it, saying, let me just take a walk over here. I don't hear anything. I don't sense any, let me take a walk over there. And of course, the lattice keeps you hidden. It may be coming from a different angle. It didn't necessarily see you. And that's why a lot of these sightings happen, is just happenstance and mistakes and whoops.
The lattice, it was there was nothing growing on it though, so it would have seen it.
Yeah.
Now it could have maybe been curious about my computer screen.
That's it.
It could be.
That screen, when you're changing the screen and stuff and it's flashing, doing things, that might have drawn its attention, maybe. I don't know. Don't know.
I mean, a lot of times I did have to say, I mean, it was just, it's like, I would get the feeling, and this is only me putting my own personal stuff on. It's like, oh, let's see what she does when we do this, and big tree would go down or something, or like I'd get a big, huge knock, and then I'm like, and I would react. I'd be like, wow, that's a good one,
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it's just maybe they wanted to see what I was going to do. I don't know. I
couple
just
of more
don't know.
great questions in chat. And this one comes from Kaiju Ninja 1985. Have you ever had rocks thrown at the house or the house being slapped?
Yeah, 3 times. And I can't say that it was a Bigfoot that did this. And I actually might have debunked it this past year. But there was one night when it was around that same time too. We had the living room. I was couch by the window, which was closest to the creepy hill, which is now we've moved the dining room over there now. So the living room's another part of the house. And something smacked the house really hard. And so at that point I had a big fat cat on my lap that ran. The other cat just, was like this. And then the dog's ears were pinned back. And so I didn't know what that was. And then about a month later, upstairs in the bedroom, something else smacked the one side of the bedroom. And then it sounded like a 98-mile-an-hour baseball being thrown, whack. And then something hit the other side. And to this day, I don't understand. I mean, the cat, again, ran out of the bed. I don't understand why Bernie didn't wake up for that. He's not that heavy of a sleeper. So I don't know. And so, but in continuing to ask these questions, I got it from 2 different people, one from a natural history museum person and another one from a naturalist in the Hocking Hills area, is that owls, when they're chasing flying squirrel, can get their radar kind of screwed up and can smack into houses. And we have a ton of owls on that hill. And I said, I've never seen a flying squirrel. And he's like, well, you normally don't. But he's like, if you've got an apple tree sitting right there, then you probably have the flying squirrel. And so I'm like, well, that sounds like a reasonable explanation. So I'm going.
Any feathers or blood or anything like that? Because obviously when a bird hits the side with that kind of impact, it's going to cause an injury.
Well, that's a great question, because Bernie walked around the whole house trying to, there wasn't any dent, there wasn't any broken windows, and so then that also makes me think, okay, if it was a Bigfoot and they do things with their, is a, we things advancing, so maybe they're not doing wood on wood, which of course doesn't make any sense that it could always sound the same. So maybe they are doing something with, their chest or their mouth or their hands. And it could have done it because that hill is only 100 feet away from me. But it was weird. I mean, it was just weird. And so I had to, the good thing about Bernie is that he was, really good at trying to help me figure out what else it could be, so I didn't totally lose my cookies. And, he's just like, okay, here's another, maybe it was this, maybe it was that. So,
So let me, there was a comment, kind of a question. Freaks me out how close they get to us at night. What is their motivation to do that? That goes against all animal behavior. Well, it actually does not go against all animal behavior. Remember, there's many cases of primates coming up to humans, and we believe Bigfoot's a primate. So there's plenty of cases of primates, such as baboons grabbing stuff out of people's hands, capuchins, even to an extent, a chimpanzee will come up to a human very rarely. So, it's not necessarily all animals. When you're thinking of it, try not to think of these creatures' behaviors in the spectrum of a deer or a bear or a dog, even a coyote, for say, or a wild feline. They act very differently than a primate, because a primate's number one motivator is curiosity. And the other thing is, they need curiosity, they need stuff to percolate in their minds. And lastly, I don't think they fear us all that much. They avoid us a lot of times, but they don't fear us. Think about that.
Yeah. They're going to do what they want to do whenever they want to do it.
Let's face it, if we're out and about and we see somebody holding a chimpanzee, we wouldn't think twice about walking up to them. However, if they're got a lion on a leash or a tiger on a leash, or even a pit bull on a leash, you're kind of like, I'm going to ask, is it okay? So you got to understand that when we see other primates, we're kind of drawn to them. But when we see other animals that may be dangerous, we're kind of reluctant to do that. So that's just our primate, instinctual psychology at work there, I think. And then again, yeah, true. Somebody said something. I think, juvies are causing mischief. Yeah, the younger ones may be braver. Think about us as youth. Primates have very similar growing patterns. For example, we love to climb as children. That's because we're exploring our hands and feet. Baby gorillas love to climb, but as they get heavier and weightier, they tend to stay on the ground. So if you think of that kind of aspect, the juveniles, they're kind of brave. When we're younger ourselves, we have no fear. And the same with juvenile, with juvenile chimpanzees or juvenile, capuchins. Even when they're juveniles, they really don't have that fear mongering in their head.
If this was a juvenile,
we learn fear.
I'm sorry. I agree with you 100% about the juveniles. I think that's kind of the impression that I got with this one. It was just kind of, it seemed like it was like a 19-year-old male running around just causing havoc everywhere, because it wasn't just at our house. It was, just down the road, it looked in, a Bigfoot had looked into somebody's windstream, and, the lady screamed, it screamed, ran off. It was, it was actively coming up to people's properties, and it didn't seem to be afraid to do that.
So Extreme Tease said, Steve, we are primates too, and welcome to the channel, by the way. And if you don't think, and like I say, welcome to the channel. I can tell you're new because I always state that fact too, that Homo sapiens are primates as well. So that is nothing that I don't preach. that is something I do preach rather on this channel, and that's our commonalities with the Sasquatch is that we're primates, they're primates, as are the great apes of primates. So please, if you go back and watch some of the other stuff, you'll see me, even when I talk about primate behavior, a lot of times when I talk about primate behavior, I always give us as an example of the primate behavior. So yes, we definitely are primates. And
like
Bigfoot,
the way you think.
Yeah.
Welcome to the channel.
Welcome to the channel. We like the way you think. And New York Bigfoot Todd said, well, he goes, I'm sorry, it's just my hunting baggage that I think, and that's perfectly fine. My whole goal is to try to get people that go out there and look for these things to get out of that hunting mentality and think primate rather than all the rest. So, few more questions. Have you noticed anything taken, disturbed, or brought back?
No, we didn't do that. We didn't. I mean, as somebody had suggested, I try some gifting stuff, but I put a game cam up on the picnic table back there, and we saw crow and deer and cats. But no, we never had anything taken or brought back.
What about your apple tree? Does it ever get robbed? Certain areas of the tree?
No, it doesn't. And this is a really old apple tree. I mean, I don't know. The house is 1872, and this apple tree, God knows how old it is. But no, they just every other year it produces apples, and then they just drop and the deer eat them. But I haven't seen noticed anything get robbed. 9 feet up or anything.
My mother had an orchard at the old place, and you could, I say orchard, it was probably 6 trees, okay, or maybe 8. And from 10 feet up to around 14 feet, there would always be a big bare spot on the back side of the apple tree to where, it would be maybe full of apples, and then we'd catch some tracks below the tree, and then the backside of the tree, this whole area was gone. So it's kind of suspicious, I kind of think they like apple trees. I think.
Yeah, I mean they might. I just didn't notice because we never trim that tree. We don't do anything with it, and so that whole backside of that apple tree could be bare, and I actually wouldn't notice it at all.
Now, somebody asked what color. Where did it go?
I mean, it went up a little bit.
Yeah. What color was the thing she saw? It was black.
It was black.
Yeah.
Well, and then the Christines, the people who had seen it cross the road, one of the 3 cars, they said it was deep brown, dark brown, or black. So that was kind of nice to hear that.
Maybe, I don't know yet. But Tom Cook, welcome to the show. Yeah, I'd like to hear about that sometime. That's very interesting that he had a run-in Niagara Falls, Canada. Hopefully not on Maid of the Mist. That would be very bad. I know, Niagara Falls just isn't the falls. Notice any rock stacking, any sniper-like positions that that have concealed the view of your house?
Well, I haven't seen any rock stacking, but I did figure out that where that hill is next to my house is a perfect lookout place because there's a power line cut that runs up between the road,
power line cut,
some trees, and then the power line cut, and then this part kind of this hill kind of is almost like a peninsula that can look out onto the valley in front of us. So we live in a valley. It's like 360 degrees around us. And so it would also connect 2 different sections of the Mohican area. I'm 1.3 miles from the river. And we have a lot of tributaries that go into it, including a creek in our yard. And there's a run in front of our house. So all these waterways go down into the Mohican River, and there's a lot of property behind us, that's just used for prize buck hunting, and the back 80s back there as well. And
you probably couldn't buy a better property for Bigfoot to be interested in coming by your house, Suzanne. I mean, You've got the power line cuts. You've got the apple trees. You got all the waterways through there. I mean, you couldn't have planned this any better if you tried.
I know, Chris.
Maybe
exactly.
it's just a happy accident, maybe.
Well, it's one of those things where I'm sitting there like going, all of a sudden it's like a eureka moment. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. And then if somebody's doing a knock, up at the top of the creepy hill, it can hear it all the way across there. And actually there was one night I was sitting there. I don't even record knocks anymore. I don't even I don't even offload them because I've heard them so many times. I was sitting on the front porch one time because the back porch the weather was coming in a little bit and, or the wind. And so I heard a big, huge knock in front of me. And this, again, we've got like a field, which is either corn or beans, depending what year it is. And then there's a Sigafoose run and then a big rise of hill. And so I heard a big knock, like right there to my left. And then.
Uh-oh.
Did we lose Suzanne?
We did.
Oh. I
I'm
think
still
you're
here.
locked up, Suzanne. There you go. There you are. There you go. Go ahead. We got you now.
The third knock was over to my right. And I'm just sitting there on the porch going, wow, this is great. What a show. But everybody can hear everything. And so it's a really, the Indians, Native Americans thought that it was a good place to, be able to hunt and guard and things like that. Because we've got a ton of arrowheads in our garden and stuff.
We got 2 great questions coming up. And we still got another audio clip to play. So this one comes from Tim Halloran. Hello, Tim. Happy holidays to you, brother.
Hi, Tim.
What suggestions do you have for long-term recording?
Well, I learned a lot from B. Mills. She's the one to really ask that question. She gave me some of her equipment. I actually traded her. I traded her a recorder that was too complicated for me. She gave me an LDR. It's just, she showed me a lot and how to get through a lot of the recordings fast, but I don't have time to do it. And so I just keep a recorder going when I'm out there live. And so therefore, if I hear anything, then I can automatically make a note of it and then pull it off the next day. But I give people a lot of credit, like B, who does a lot of work with LDRs, because that takes a lot of time. Now there is new technology coming out there now that they're developing with AI, which is exciting. So let's look for that in the future, where you can run through a lot of data in a short period of time. So.
That's the thing, too, when you do a recording project like that, Suzanne, you have to go back and review everything. And
well, you know what I found just as a suggestion for that is a lot of time I'll put the waveform up. And, if you amplify it, then you can start seeing the peaks and where to start looking and listening to off the shoot. I mean, yes, is it possible you might miss something? Well, whatever you're missing is so low that it's not really going to amount to anything. But if you pick up the louder, sounds, those are the meaty ones. And
dude, when I was doing the video recordings in the mid 2000s,
right,
I would have to go back through and watch. Of course, I did it on fast forward, watching, speed it up. But you have to watch 6-hour tapes. Of video, looking for something to stop and say, oh, wait a minute, this,
Yep. So High Five Chaser asks, Suzanne, have you talked with the native Mohegans about the Sasquatch in their history?
There's Mohegans, not a Native American tribe. Right. There's no Mohegans that were here. Delaware Indians, Seneca, but there's no Mohegans. They just named it the river that. I don't know why, but we don't have any Native Americans here to ask.
Yep. Have you tried a habituation setup?
That's a good question.
Well, I'm not sure, what they mean by that. Now my research area is, where I live.
Have you tried to trade with them, leave them gifts or something?
Yeah, like I said, I did that back once, before. I mean, I left Bernie's ribs out, and he's like, "Why'd you do that?" And of course, I went. The one time that
Where's the
tin
ribs
foil
at?
was like,
Ah!
I know. He's like, I was like, "What? They're a couple of days old." He's like, "They're still good." So, I mean, one time, the tin foil was licked clean, and another time it was ripped to shreds. But there's so many critters around here that, we're just trying to keep them out of our trash cans. So setting up food or anything like that
Yeah.
we don't
Yeah.
do that.
Now, Helton asked, Chris mentioned power lines. I've heard them mentioned before in context with Bigfoot. I know trapping coyotes, you can always find them near train tracks. So does there seem to be any correlation? Yes. All right. We've always said that train tracks, and I've taken a couple of sightings off very close to train tracks. One by a couple of children that they were 12 years old, that occurred back in 2003. Another one that occurred back in the mid 2000s as well, in the middle part of the state, near Long Lake, I want to say, right near the Adirondack Railway, which is the Adirondack Scenic Railway. But yeah, I think that the power lines and fire cuts,
Yep.
and power lines, they're all like the Sasquatch superhighways. They can really get on there. It's the path of least resistance, and they can move fast and quick without obstruction of those things. There seems to be a lot of sightings around those type of areas. So
That's where all the activity was coming from, was over on that hill by those power lines.
and that makes a lot of sense, because
Oh yeah.
you look at the area in Chestnut Ridge and down in Fayette County, Pennsylvania, there's oil line cuts there, where they have pipeline cuts, I should say. And there's a lot of sightings around those pipeline cuts and fire breaks. So it makes a lot of sense. It seems to be very consistent around those cuts we're seeing. In fact, I think in the one of the Small Town Monsters productions, Seth believed he saw one in a fire break, in a fire cut, crossing the fire cut.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It makes perfect sense, especially if you're in the belief in the camp that these creatures may use deer as a food source. The power line cuts and stuff provide an open area of grassy areas where the deer can graze, and it seems like a logical place to find deer out for an evening snack. Go snatch you one up.
They're always over there. Yeah, I mean, I therm them all over the place over there. Yeah.
That's where I would go look. If I lived in the woods and I wanted a deer, and I was near one of these power line cuts, that's where I'd be looking for a deer.
Now, let's set up the next audio, which is the Howls audio.
Oh, I like this one.
This was
Yes.
This was the 2nd of July is when we started noticing this. Our neighbors down the road spend a large amount of money on fireworks. And we live in the country, so it's no big deal. Nobody's going to bother you. And so we went maybe just a little bit down the road, just so we could see it better, and set our chairs up. And they start blowing these fireworks off, and the whole valley is just kaboom!
Yeah.
And the echo is almost as big as the first shot.
Right.
And this is just going off, and we're just like, wow, that sounds great. And so there was 5 of us, and all of a sudden we're hearing a howl. And then we heard coyote, and all of a sudden, like, the 3 out of the 5 of us were Bigfooters, and we're all just like, wait, what was that? Then we're quiet. We don't say anything. The other 2 non-Bigfooters like, what was that? We're like, shh, and of course I didn't have the recorder going at that time. It just drives me nuts. We were in a rush to get out the door and chasing my sister-in-law's dog down the road. And I just forgot to bring the recorder out there. But so we thought we had heard a howl. And so then later that night, we get back to, we also heard coyotes as well. They were reacting or doing their thing. And so then we get back to our porch, and we're just sitting there talking until 3:00 in the morning. And so I walked my friend down to, she was had a hammock down at our back campsite. The other people went to bed. And so I'm always the last one up. And so I just sat there and relaxed for a few minutes. And then all of a sudden I heard these howls going off. And I just froze. And I didn't, I was just like, wow, is that what I'm actually hearing? And then then the coyotes went off, and then the howls went off again. And then I had a really nice therm 3 feet from me. And I'm so mad at myself. Again, it was one of those, why didn't you just get up and go over there and therm it? Because maybe you could have seen it, but I was just sitting there dumbfounded.
Don't feel bad.
It's like, why bother having the damn thing, Just, God. But anyway, it was really exciting. I remember texting Cliff Berrickman at, 10 to 4 in the morning going, I think I just heard some howls. But then the next day, of course, I sat up all night, and as soon as the sun came up, I yanked that thing down and started, downloading it. And then as everyone would wake up, I just put the headphones on. I'm like, what about this? What do you think? And Mark Mazel was like, finally, you've got a recording that I can say I think is a Bigfoot. And so that was exciting. And then I sent it to Nangahila. And I was perfectly prepared for him to say, oh, yes, I have this in my database. It's this other animal. But he came back with a really great explanation for it all. And he thinks it's a Sasquatch calling out to another Sasquatch. So it was really exciting. And then the thing went viral by accident, and there's all that.
All right, let's give it a listen. Wow.
I'm still open to possibilities. If somebody else can tell me this is still under research, I'm not saying for sure this is a Bigfoot howl, but I'm looking for other explanations. Somebody has suggested that they thought it was a coyote collar, one of those mechanical coyote collars. But
I don't know. It doesn't sound mechanical to me. It doesn't sound like it's being repeated. The waveforms are slightly different on each one of the calls. So it's not like repeating. One would think that if it was a caller, it would be the same exact call every single time. So that sounds a little bit unlikely.
I've not heard that exact clip, but I've heard that, Suzanne. I've heard that. Scott, if you're out there, call in, man.
Chris, I would love to hear another. If you've heard that same level, like that high level, like that.
It sounds kind of coyote-ish, but the howl, instead of a descending howl, it's ascending,
Right.
and then it just cuts out at the top. I've heard that. I've heard that in Kentucky right after we'd had a sighting here locally.
Wow.
Now I don't know if it's Bigfoot related, but I think so.
Boy, the comments are popping right now.
Lyle Blackburn told me that he's heard that before, which was great. I really admire all these great people that let me bug them, that have a lot of experience. And so I sent this clip out to everybody that I knew in the Bigfoot world that has experience, and everybody without fail came back and said that they thought it was a Bigfoot. And I was so grateful for them to take the time to listen to it for me.
So just posting some of the comments. Mick wanted to.
He was the ones that he. Steve shortened it because it's a 2-minute clip, so he took out all the coyotes in the middle. And how this thing went viral, it was. I had a friend of mine who lives across the river, and so I sent it to her, and I'm like, Gretchen, have you heard anything like this before?
Right in the middle.
she said no. She's like, can I post this in my Wally Road Scenic Byway Facebook group? And I'm like, sure, just don't use my name or my location. And so she did, but then it turns out there's 15,000 followers on that page. And then somebody from the Mansfield News Journal contacted her and asked if they could interview the person that recorded that. And so I thought about it for a couple days, or pros and cons. And I said, well, if it helps generate more local reports, then all right, we'll just do it. And so it was a nice interview and all that kind of stuff. But then it went to all these other newspapers, and then went to USA Today, and then it went like crazy after that. And then it was like in England, it was in India, and then somebody said that on their Apple News, I beat out Trump and Putin. I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Nice.
But then there was this one of the naturalists at the Mohican State Park had said that they thought that it was a male coyote, but he said, but it didn't completely match up. So then we went through a whole nother round of media saying, okay, it's all debunked now and everything. And that's okay. I don't care.
Let's listen. I said, let's listen to this one more time, and I hit the button too fast. I apologize. And, for those who think it's a call blast, look at the waveform. They're not the same.
Yeah, you can.
So they definitely are different length, different volume, different pitch. And mind you that the middle part has been edited out, which was just a long string of, canine sounds.
Yeah.
So, it's not a long recording. It doesn't appear to be repeating itself. So I in my experience, and it's been a while, a long time doing this, that this does not sound like a call blast type of vocalization that you're hearing.
Yeah, the waveform's completely different on each on each howl. It's really
like I said, the length, the volume, and even the duration of them is a little different. Yep.
Thanks for checking it out, you guys. And again, your honest opinion, I appreciate that. And Steve, you were one of the first people I sent that to.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, like, what's this?
Yeah, and I was like, oof.
You're like,
because
wow.
I have heard plenty of yotes in the woods, and I've never heard them sound like that. I've heard plenty of game calls in the woods too. Never. And you know what? Truthfully, as somebody that sits around, in a store that sells game calls, you don't sell a lot of that. A lot of people stay away from the game callers. I don't know why, but I don't know too many people that use them. The guys that use like the deer stuff and usually they use the manuals, or they use the tools.
And for coyotes,
and they can stick in a pocket. Yeah.
You don't really get a coyote call now. You get like a wounded rabbit call or a predator call, and that's how we hunted coyotes here in Kentucky. Get this wounded rabbit or wounded rodent call, and it's nice. It's a terrible shriek, and boy, they really like that sound. Here they'll come running to it.
Now the other thing, did you kind of find out about what time of night that this had occurred?
Oh, I was sitting right there. It was at 3:52 a.m.
Okay, so
actually 3:42 a.m.
Right. So that would argue against somebody using a game caller as well, who would be game calling at 3:52 in the morning when there's houses obviously in the area. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, we've got houses on one side, and we do have coyote hunters. Now, whether they were hunting on, the weekend of the 4th of July. I don't know. I just don't, I don't know. I, I can't say that there's not coyote hunters, and I can't say that they
Right. But who would
didn't
be
make
throwing
that.
out a call blast like that would,
No, and nobody else was up. I was
right.
the last one up. I would have at least seen the lights. It's really hard to get away with anything in this valley because you can see everything, you can hear everything. I'm not saying that I can't get fooled, but I'm pretty darn sure that I was the last one up.
Right.
And that's how you know I was sitting there too,
Yeah.
because it's embarrassing because I burped right before that second set of howls. So, nobody can like rip it off or say it wasn't me.
That's a good thing it wasn't chilly night at my house. I'll tell you that.
Well, the thing's rolling. I don't think that there's anything's ever going to come of it. And then
Finding the Trackway asks, has she noticed any other odd phenomena?
No, I've noticed some knocks when the planters are planting and harvesting. That seems to be a big time when I hear a lot of knocks at one time. So, for example, when they were planting this year in May, they were doing it up until, even at night, they hadn't finished quite yet and they were using their lights. And so they were planting the fields all around us. And as soon as that machine would get out of the field, I'd be hearing knocks, exactly where it was. And so it was really exciting for about an hour and 15 minutes to just sit there and, I mean, I've got them recorded, to hear all these knocks because there hadn't been a lot of knocks for a while. And so I thought, okay, again, what's different? Well, here's this machine, maybe pushing game around. And maybe there's Bigfoots out there and maybe they're doing knocks to let the other ones know, okay, I got this one coming here. Or, there was a reason for them to knock.
Right. Now, have they stopped foresting your area or, logging your area?
Every now and then there's somebody who's getting logged. It seems to be a regular occurrence around there. It's generally managed. There isn't any doesn't seem to be like overlogged or underlogged, but sometimes there's stuff. It's a common thing.
Yeah. Gotcha.
We have a lot of Amish furniture stores around here. So there's a feed the furniture industry around here with a lot of the forests. But I mean, Ohio's more forested now than it's ever been.
Very
so
cool.
It's
So what, going forward, what are your plans? I mean, are you going to continue recording? Are you going to?
If I'm out there, I'm recording. I can't. It's kind of the point where it makes me nervous to be out there without having a recorder on. And there's been a couple times when, I'm just out there, just maybe making a quick phone call to a family member and it takes longer. And then like I hear a knock or I hear a good sound or something. I'm like, darn it, it's not. So I've learned the hard way. Just keep it there, keep it going, just hang it up. Just bring it in later. As far as this past year, we did the Bigfoot base camp at Pleasant Hill Lake Park, which was a blast. And we intend on doing it again this year. We haven't announced the dates, but it's going to be the first weekend in October. And we just had a lot of fun with that. And the Pleasant Hill Lake Park is part of the Muskingum Watershed Conservancy District. And if you look at a map of the Mohican River and the 5 branches that come forward from it, that's all controlled. It's a flood control government organization, and they contacted me. It goes back to August of 2020 when I investigated a report there just on my own. I caught some local information that there was a Bigfoot sighting over there. And so I went there and I talked to the ranger, and it was this young family that had called 911 because they were getting harassed by a Bigfoot and saw it walk through the camp. And so, I talked to him about it for a while and everything, and he kept my information. And then like the year following that, I got contacted and they said, would you help volunteer to put together a Bigfoot event there? And I said, sure, that'll be fun. And so, right about that time, Matt Moneymaker had been posting reports from the Ashland area. Ashland County is right next to us, and that's where the park was. And I said to the park people, I said, I know you wanted this to be a small educational family event, but how about going big and getting Matt here to talk about all those reports that he, was posting, because it was getting a lot of attention here. And it would be so great to have, the big chief, come himself and talk about it. And so they agreed to it, and Matt agreed to it, and we had a great time. And then Matt said, let's get thermal drones. He was working on a thermal drone project, and he wanted to debut it right here in Mohican. And I'm like, awesome, this is going to be great, which he did. And it was really fun because we were able to get a drone with a really nice drone with a thermal imaging camera up in the air, and have all the investigators on the ground connected by an app. And so if we saw anything or heard anything, we could direct, tell the drone where to go, and everybody watched it all happen on a live screen. Right. And it was very exciting. So we're gonna go have it happen again. And one of the best parts about that was the local town hall, and there were people that came forward. We did it just like Finding Bigfoot, and kind of made it a comfortable space for people. And there were people that came forward that had never come forward before with their Bigfoot experiences in the Mohican area. So that just thrilled me to no end, and I got a lot of really good contacts out of it.
So let me put this comment up here from the Dinosaur Hunter, and we do appreciate you being here, skeptical as you are, saying, I'm sorry, we have no video evidence of Bigfoot making sounds. We have no video how they hunt. We have no video of Bigfoot doing really much anything than walking, and everybody's saying that's not real. Who's everybody? See, I don't mind people saying that, and some people are skeptical of it, but not everybody is saying it's not real. Let's stop. That is a gaslight type of term, and that's gaslighting. Not everybody is saying that's not real. So, and there are scientists that subscribe, and I assume the one walking, he's alluding to the PGF film. I don't know, but that's not, there are scientists that have said that they believe in it. So it's not everybody that's saying that it's not real.
Well, so, it's nothing wrong. Nothing wrong with
skepticism, but don't fall into that trap of being a gaslighter.
Don't be dismissive.
That's not
nothing wrong with being skeptical, but don't be dismissive.
Not a correct statement. And when you make a statement such as that, that could be, that to me is gaslighting, just saying. And yes, but have there been people that have seen them vocalize? Yes. Has there people that have claimed to see them hunting? Yes. So as it is, any video, audio is going to be, it's not considered evidence. What's going to be considered evidence is getting DNA. Hopefully that will do it, but more than likely it will be one on a slab. Unfortunately, that's going to be the one that puts us over. But I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you tuning in. But I understand maybe it's frustration.
I like skepticism. I do.
Skepticism keeps us on our toes, keeps us real, keeps us grounded. But we have to be healthy skeptics.
We really, you can't prove that they make any noise. If you're just going by what you've seen yourself. I've not seen one making noise, but I've heard noises similar to what Suzanne recorded there, maybe about 100 yards away from a sighting. So I'm not certain if they're related or not, but I kind of think they might be.
Does sonogram go lower than human hearing? I have no clue, because that is not really a scientific necessarily analytical. It gives you the waveform and the therm on the audio, but it's not. I would not consider that enough to basically say here's evidence, of this going below. I would not use that particular program for that particular. We would need a program that is specific to finding the basically the frequency range of the calls, really to analyze that. And I would use a specific program built for that, not just going to a switch of a screen saying I can split screen and have the waveform and the spectrum. So,
Well, yeah, but compared with Suzanne's recording there to a regular coyote howl you would hear, I encourage everybody to listen to recordings of coyotes and pay attention to how they howl. You'll get it'll be an ascending howl and then it'll descend. Now, what Suzanne has recorded there is something that's ascending and then cuts out at the top. Now, that's very unlike a coyote. I'm not saying that a coyote couldn't do that, but
it's like Monongahela said to me, in his email back to me, they make an sound that coyotes don't make. So that was one of the things that he pointed out that was important in his analysis. But like I said, I'd like to hear more.
If it quacks like a duck and looks like a duck, could it be a duck? Yeah, exactly.
I can't prove it. If I would have gotten the DM Therm, video right there, wouldn't that have been great? Because that thing records audio too. So, but
like I said, anybody here on the dais tonight has said this is proof Bigfoot exists.
No.
Right. Or this is proof that
absolutely.
this is proof that this is a Bigfoot audio. What it is some compelling stuff to listen to. And, compelling means interesting. Compelling means fascinating. Compelling means it's kind of not that easily explained.
Well, and then when the newspaper reports started going crazy with this story, they said, woman convinced it's a Bigfoot. I'm like, I never said that. It's just,
sure. And that
I don't know.
That is the problem with the flyby media sometimes.
Yep.
And I've always, or I like to call them the drive-by media, is they'll sit there and they'll make up something to make it's clickbait for them.
Oh,
That's what it is.
They said I called it a Yeti. I'm like, I didn't call it a Yeti. And then they had me living in the wrong towns.
Sure.
They were mostly nice though.
This was not Nepal. This was Ohio.
Right. They had me living in Columbus and Mansfield.
Wow, you never know before you know.
Well, with any evidence, you can either like it or you can dislike it. Or in this case, I really like it because it corresponds with something my own research.
That's so cool.
I really like it.
That's awesome, Chris. I'm so glad to hear you say that, though.
I was glad to hear this clip. I love it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it definitely. Rico Doug. Whenever in doubt, just ask Mark Zatsky.
Do that run again, Chris. What run?
I don't know.
Want me to imitate the coyote sound again?
But very interesting stuff. And I guess there was another question I want to get to as well. Is I think Mick asked it. And you pretty much have the whole show, of course. Yeah, I kind of figured that was a loaded question there, Rico. Thanks for being here. By the way, Rico Dog, please, your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Give us a like. We appreciate it. So Nick said that, can you please have Suzanne ask about, saying how prevalent Bigfoot, sightings are in Ohio. And I think you've kind of illustrated that between, the different counties over the course of the show, that Ohio is probably one of the higher. It's even higher than New York as far as Bigfoot sightings go.
Well, I mean, just in this area,
right.
I recently joined the BFRO, but I've just had been doing my own research and talking to locals and stuff. And, just in the whole Mohican Valley area, there's just, lots of solids. solid reports, but I mean, that whole eastern part of the state, everywhere, Coshocton County. I mean, there are so many counties in the eastern part of the state that have multiple sightings in them. I mean, just to look at the BFRO database. But for me, it's great to hear about them in Ohio, but for me, my interest is what's going on around here.
Sure.
Because if I can somehow, again, connect dots where you really can't connect dots, but if I hear that something's happening over here, and then I can ask somebody over there, across the river, oh yeah, I've heard this, and just kind of build up the network of people. It's great because I even got a report from July that was probably 4 miles from here, that was right around the same time I got that howl. And so it was good that the publicity of that actually did help bring another person forward that wasn't a Bigfooter. And they had a Class A sighting at 9:30 in the morning when they were changing their game cams.
Oh wow!
So yeah, so it's really exciting.
And they didn't get anything on their game cams, unfortunately, probably.
No, they didn't get anything on the game cams, but they saw it when they were changing the game cams.
Now, have you thought about putting a game cam or two up, or do you have them out already?
We have. I've haven't gotten any, squatchy things on them, but we did have again, I'm talking about how many deer are around here that get killed. One of them was dead in our front yard. Somebody must have hit it. And so I don't know, maybe this is just country people entertaining themselves. But we put a chain on it. Bernie put a chain on it, and we dragged it over to a different part of our property. And this is in the middle of the wintertime. And then we put a game cam on it to see what would come eat it. And it was fascinating. And so we got, obviously coyotes. There was this bald eagle that came trudging up from the creek through about a foot of snow. It was the funniest thing. And you could see his little path going all the way up there, and then, stops at the deer. I was thinking, why didn't he just fly over there? But it was interesting. And then I saw a red-tailed hawk sitting on top of the carcass, and the buzzard, the vulture's just like this, and it was being shooed away. So it was, one bird won and the other one lost. The red-tailed hawk won and the vulture lost, and it was fascinating to watch that. So
Nice.
Anyway, but yeah, I mean that's the kind of fun we have with game cams around here.
Country entertainment.
Yeah.
Question from Jen. Has Susan gotten many from Claremont County, Ohio?
No, I'm not familiar with Claremont County really, so you probably have to check with some investigators in that area.
Yeah, a time-lapse video of what's eating the deer carcass today. That would be good for YouTube.
Oh, it's great. I'll send you some
watch
of
it.
the pictures.
Yeah.
And here is again what county, Suzanne?
We're in Holmes County, the northwest portion of Holmes County, in the Mohican River Valley.
There you go. Little talking about sonograms, and yeah, I was kind of. I think he meant to say spectrogram, not sonogram. That's why I didn't really address that. I don't know what extreme he said. I was appalled today when I saw Bigfoot is real for the first time. I don't know what program that is necessarily.
I've seen that, I think, but I can't really pull it back. I've seen so many. Every time a new Bigfoot documentary comes out, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, don't know much about that documentary now. I'm gonna have to look it up.
Yeah.
Report back to you all in a couple of weeks.
Have to watch the back 80 again too.
Yep. Well, I have it. I have the video. So
there's the second one that they did with starting off with Loudonville. That was really great.
Mm-hmm.
I really.
And if anybody's interested, we have the back 80, a link to back 80 if they want to rent it. It's available on Amazon. It's in the links on the description of the video once this goes. If anybody wants to check it out, it's in the description of the description of tonight's show.
I think it's free on YouTube as well. Now.
Oh, that's right. That's right. They announced. That's right. It was the GCBRO hunting Bigfoot on the Travel Channel, right? And that was under a different name for the 2 seasons that show was going on. And if you noticed, I wouldn't be appalled. It's very staged and very silly to me. So
One
Yeah, that was
disclaimer.
on
Sorry.
some other network, and then they switched it over to the Travel Channel. I can't remember.
I think that show was originally called like Killing Bigfoot or something like that.
Hunting Bigfoot.
Steve, I have a disclaimer about the back 80, though.
Sure.
Alan and Jesse, and one of these days I'm going to talk to them about this in person. But I think that they were pulling tricks on us when they were filming, Bernie and I were walking through the back 80. Because I think that they threw knocks to make my head turn like that. And of course, then they threw the Sierra sounds in there for, sound effects and stuff like that. And then when they had us, there was this, it was like a zipper bird thing is all we could call it. It was a strange bird thing or something that was going zzz, zzz, like right at Bernie and I. And it did it like as we were walking all the way down the trail and we're trying to figure out what that was. And it was whatever this thing was kind of annoyed that we were there. And so that's what we were talking about, saying, gosh, it sounds like it doesn't want us to be there. But the way they edited it, it sounded like I thought, that it was a Bigfoot there, and it wasn't. So, I mean, I love those guys, but they played a few games.
That's to be expected. They're going to put some edits in there, usually for entertainment value.
And you know what? For a documentary, the sad thing about that is for a documentary, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
For a TV show where you're bringing people back, I get that, but you're already into this documentary. How many minutes? Why add that now at this point?
Yeah, I mean, they did a great job. I mean, beautiful job of telling my story, but I'm like, I did get Mel. I'm like, you guys, why did you do that for? But, I do love them, but they did. That is my disclaimer.
Thank you, Rico. We appreciate that. So Rico said it was hard to tell what researchers can be believed. That's why I tune in here. Appreciate that. And Dan Week said the prime directive, honesty. Absolutely. And you know what? It's hard sometimes. You get something like that audio and you're like, did I just get a Bigfoot? It's hard to contain that excitement, which is why and as Suzanne as well, I'm very pragmatic about how you release stuff. Is that I don't release it right away. I put it through the processes first.
Oh yeah, yep. That was that I asked a lot of people in the know.
Including me.
You were one of the first people that I asked. There was a handful of them that I said, "What do you think of this?" And I wasn't expecting. I wasn't going to be crushed if they said, "Oh yeah, I know that this is a cougar makes a sound or something." Some new animal that's moved into our area that I wasn't familiar with or something. But every single person that I asked that came back with said, "No, I think you got something there." And then when I sent it off to Monongahela and he got then he wrote this, nice long letter about it too. I was just like, that was great. So I'm like, wow, cool. Maybe they are here. But again, I didn't see the thing make the sound.
Yeah.
So,
like somebody the other day, and I'll explain, posted in one of the Facebook groups, this picture in the snow. And you all know that I have some problems with snow tracks because they can get. This one looked relatively fresh, actually, but people were saying, look, you can see the mid-tarsal break, but it was raised in the footprint. And I very calmly and kindly explained to them that, what you're seeing here, if you think about it, it's raised on a cast, right? Because the casting is the inversion or the opposite of what you're seeing of the print on the ground. So if it's a raised on the ground, that's not a mid-tarsal impression. That is actually, what you're looking at there is actually a bump when it should be depressed if it was a mid-tarsal break. And everybody went, oh, well, you're right. So what do you have an idea it is? No idea at this point. But it's not a mid-tarsal break you're looking at because it's a lump, a raising of the snow, not an impression. If it was a mid-tarsal break, that's where the foot would pivot and it would be a divot. Pivot. See what I did there? Let me show you a
cast. Hang on a second.
So,
well, it's something too on tracks that I think is left up to interpretation too, because you're going to get some kind of when it pushes off, you're going to get if it's soft material, it's going to be pushed backwards a little bit.
Okay, see now I figure it out. Right. So you see there the raising of the foot there, that is depressed into the ground. That's a good example of the mid-tarsal break. But that is exactly the opposite of what you would see on the print. It's just what that is basically an X-ray of the print. So you're seeing or a negative of the print. So you see this, it's going to print it. It's going to copy the things, but it's going to be what the foot looks like, not necessarily what the print looks like.
Because that cast pushed down into sand.
It's very hard to grasp that concept sometimes, even when you're looking at right and left. That when you see a foot impression, that we cast it to see what the foot looks like, not to see what the print looks like. So if the mid-tarsus is raised, that's basically on the cast, then it should be a depression on the.
This is Dr. Jeff Meldrum's 5 points cast.
Right.
So it was nice. My computer is showing battery running low, and I have to scoot around the other side to make sure. I thought it was plugged in. 1 second, sorry.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Wow, look what time it is, Chris.
Yeah.
So 2 hours just went by like. Whew.
Well, Suzanne is a great guest, and when she's on, man, time just flies. It really does.
Uh-oh. Looks like she just flew.
Uh-oh. Maybe the battery was low and it's probably dead now, but she's got it plugged in. Maybe it'll come back before the end of the show.
But
I really did like her recording. I mean, I love that. Some of the stuff, you hear is evidence, and some of it's just. I like this one. I really do.
Well, Suzanne certainly does know how to make an exit.
I've heard a lot of recorded coyote calls too. Something you can tell. Well, okay, that's coyote, and then you hear something that sounds different from a coyote. And this sounds different.
Yep, she just disconnected.
Well, she might come back in.
But yeah, really cool audio track today. Something to think about at least.
Yeah.
And a good example of how to do it right and correct.
Yeah.
Mind you, the one piece I did edit a bit just for time. I didn't think that, listening to 30 seconds of, would get everybody like, let's keep it on point to the sounds we're listening to.
I like the footfalls. That was interesting. And you could hear a lot of detail in that. The heaviness.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, we was kind of worried. We thought, well, maybe your battery was low.
Well, it was, and I don't understand because everything's plugged in, so something's not right. So
well, that's good.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're here. We're almost at the end anyway, Suzanne. You've done a great job.
Yep, it's that time.
It's great talking to you guys. I mean, this has been so much fun, and of course, I admire you two greatly. And I get really nervous doing these, but having talked to you guys before, you were just so wonderful 4 years ago, and I'm just like, well, if there's anybody I'm going to talk to, it's going to be you guys. So,
well, hopefully, we were wonderful tonight.
You were as always.
Hopefully, it won't be 4 years till you're back on again.
Well, I don't know if I'll have anything interesting. Hopefully, I'll get something in 4 years and be more interested. Another interesting clip or something, but you never know.
And one of our regular followers out here, Mick, is saying you've got to get Suzanne on again. Great guest.
Oh yeah, Mick.
Thank you. Well, and keep up the good work and everything you guys do. I mean, it's your. Anytime something rolls across, I'm like, okay, well, let's see what Steve and Chris have to say about it. So, thank you for what you do.
I don't want people to get the idea that because we're doing funny shorts and some parody, especially over some of the shorts land up on TikTok, the Squatch-D TV TikTok channel. We put that fun stuff out there just to, break up the week a little bit. We can't be serious all the time. And, I got to say, at this is that if I had to be serious 24/7, I would go insane.
Yeah.
After all, it is Bigfoot, and it's a serious topic for a lot of people and for me. But I don't go, and that's why, I love having Suzanne on, because like-minded individuals, we don't get all ballistic on the topic if somebody disagrees with us. We don't go ballistic if somebody has a different opinion than us. But we try to talk it out with logic and science and not name call. But we do have some fun with the other opinions. We do have some fun with some of the crappy videos that come out now. And, we love just having fun. I think that if I didn't have a Bigfoot channel, I would have a comedy channel. So let's have some fun with this. And that's what the shorts are about.
It's good to be serious and educational, but it's okay. It's good to have a few laughs too.
Now
enjoy what you do,
and do what you
enjoy. You enjoy what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Right. Now, I will say this: I have downloaded the Independence Day video, so that will be coming out not for a parody, but that will be coming out for a analysis review. So we're going to be working that over the next couple of weeks. Don't expect it to be like in a couple of days, because as I've always said, I'm pragmatic in what I do. So we'll be doing that. But while we're here, we want to thank Suzanne for coming on tonight. You are a great, great guest. And I'm pretty sure I'll be seeing you sometime next year. So.
Oh, I'm sure. Thank you so much. You guys are just wonderful. I really appreciate it. And, again, you're some of my favorite people out there. So you have been from the beginning. So I was honored that you called and asked. And
always. And Chris, do your thing, brother.
Well, once again, I want to thank Suzanne for being on with us. She's always a great guest, and it tickled to death and honored to have her. I want to thank everybody in the chat and everybody who listens to us live on the YouTube podcast and all the podcasts like iHeartRadio. Steve just named them. There's too many, guys. We appreciate you, and I encourage you to stop by the YouTube channel. Check us out at Squatch-D TV, and check it out. Leave us a like, hit the subscribe, share. Sharing is caring. It helps us out with the algorithm. It helps people find us easier.
Yep, and leave us a comment below what you think.
Sure.
And of course, everybody, Merry Christmas next year. Merry Christmas. For those who aren't there because of the Hanukkah holiday, happy Hanukkah to you guys. And whatever you celebrate, enjoy your family time, and have some great Christmas cheer this week, folks. We will be back in a couple of weeks. I'll be enjoying my Christmas cheer, that's for sure. So,
Christmas dinners. Yes.
And Rico said, fun show, y'all. Long-time listener, first-time commenter, have a million questions. And Rico Dog, we appreciate you being here, brother. So, folks, on behalf of everybody here, again, Merry Christmas. And we'll catch you all here next week, 2 weeks, right here on, provided Chris wants to work on New Year's Day. And we'll see y'all in a couple of weeks. We'll catch you anyway on some of the downloads that are coming before the end of the year. So, folks, again, have a great week. Have a great 2 weeks. Keep safe. Keep healthy. God bless. And, of course, keep on squatching. Catch y'all.
Thank you.
Hey folks, you've been watching Squatch-D TV. Join us each week, Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for the latest on the Bigfoot mystery. As always, we thank you for being our loyal viewers and encourage all to subscribe to our YouTube page at youtube.com/Steve Culls. As always, have a great week. Stay safe. God bless and keep on squatching.